Hello friends, this is Meenu. Welcome back to my channel Storytale. If you have been following my videos, then you know that this is my last video of the Shiva Trilogy Series under popular tag. I've already uploaded the first installment of the series, and if you want you can check them out. Those videos are spoiler free, so you can check them out before or after reading the book. But this video is gonna be spoiler filled because the Oath of the Vayuputras, I didn't like it that much. The only thing that I liked about the book was the conclusion and the spoiler part, so that is only I'm gonna talk about. Other parts I am not even interested in talking about. So I'm warning you that if you have not read the book, please pause and leave because I don't want this book to be spoiled for you. And if you do not mind knowing about it firsthand before reading the book, then you can continue. Oath of the Vayuputras by Amish Tripathi was the longest book of this series because it was so slow paced. At least for the 50% of the book, it was so slow paced, it somehow made the time stretch longer. Whenever I picked up this book and I read a few of the starting chapters on this book, I always somehow end up falling asleep. I think it was so boring, it was too descriptive. It did not need this much of description, especially of the kingdom of Vasudevas. They did not actually play much larger role in this book except for lending some elephants. Other than that, I do not think there was any significant of them. So wasting so many pages on describing their land and their tradition and everything, I think that was just futile. The book should have been, I don't know, maybe 200 pages shorter because it didn't have much story to stretch. Still, this book was so unnecessarily descriptive. I did not need that, especially from the third book and the final book of the installment. It needed to be much grander, it needed to be much shorter and much larger in scale. Before I tell you in detail what I didn't like about the book or the one thing that I like about the book, the conclusion or the spoiler part, let me run you through the plot of this book. The book obviously starts where the last one ended. We learn that Brihaspati is alive. Shocking, right? I know, don't even get me started there. But we realize that he's alive and we learn more about Somras and its evil properties. We find out how something good can turn into evil. We learn more about Somras and its bad effects, how the excessive use of Somras by Meluhans are actually ruining everything else in the country. The plague of the Bhrangas, the disabilities of the Naga people and the cancer throughout the country is caused by the excess use of Somras by the Meluhan people. And Brihaspati has been trying to find a solution for such evil. That is why he faked his death, so that he can do that in peace and without interference of the Meluhan people. Shiva, of course, after realizing the truth, wants to help and he takes it upon himself to get the world rid of this evil and finally get rid of Somras. Of course, the Meluhan people beg to differ. They do not actually believe that Somras can be evil because it has been an elixir for them for a very long time. They still believe that the things that has been happening to Nagas or the Bhrangas are because of something that they did in their past life. It has nothing to do with Somras. They do not actually understand that something good can actually turn into evil. That is the base of the story, and then after that it is a build up to the final war between the Meluhans and Shiva and his followers. Shiva has the assistance of Vasudevas and Vayuputras, while Meluhans have much larger army and they are also supported by the Ayodhyans, who also have much bigger army compared to Shiva and his followers. Apart from few battle scenes here and there's nothing much to the story, and the conclusion, of course, that is the best part. Other than that, I think this was a very disappointing book. Like my previous videos, I'm not gonna give you a point-wise summary of what I liked and didn't like about the book because there's only one thing that I liked and I disliked almost everything else. So I'm just gonna discuss that and not point-wise. The best thing that I liked about the book was the last 20%. It was brilliantly written. That part is the best part of the whole series. I really enjoyed those scenes. I think that was something that I was actually looking forward to in this book. After reading Secret of Nagas, I was very hopeful about this book. I really wanted so much big from it. And I just got it. I mean, like barely I got it. And that is also in the last 20%. The other 80%, right now I don't want to talk about it. But the last 20% I thoroughly enjoyed. I really got more into the book after the inclusion of peace conference between Lord Daksha and Sati. I'm gonna give you the biggest spoiler of the series. Sati dies. We know her ultimate fate, we know the mythology, we have read it that Sati always dies. But in this book, I thought it would be different maybe she won't have the same fate. But of course, Amish went with the mythology. He stuck to the fact that Sati always dies and she was supposed to die in this book too. I didn't see that coming because I was expecting something else. Anyway, you know that I didn't like Sati in the first book. I barely liked her in the second one. I actually enjoyed her in this book. I sympathized with her after she felt betrayed by her father. I felt her regret and I felt how ashamed she was because she was so easily beguiled. I really loved her on those scenes. It made her feel more human. It made her feel more relatable, I think. And when she was dying, she didn't get to meet Shiva. I felt that too bad. I mean, I was literally crying when her final scenes came. I felt so bad for her. I didn't want her to die, and especially not without Shiva. And those scenes were heartbreaking. Her final scene with the Egyptian assassin, I think that is one of the best written scene in the whole series. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and especially the inclusion of Egyptian legend and the story about their final kill. I think that was a brilliant inclusion to the story. That whole scene, that whole battle scene between Sati and the Egyptian assassin and her trying to rescue everything and everyone who was under her, I think that was brilliantly done, and I really loved that scene, and I loved her dying scene. I mean, I didn't actually loved it. I mean, I felt bad for it, but the writing and the script and the emotion that it made me feel, I really loved that. That is what I loved about the book, when it makes me feel so many emotions. It makes me feel sympathetic toward the character. It makes me cry. It makes me feel bad. And even after remembering it years later, I still feel bad for it. So these emotions is why I read, because that is not something you can, I don't know, get from something else. You just get it from reading a book. Another heartbreaking scene was the scenes where Shiva realizes the Sati is no more. I loved those scenes. I mean, those were heartbreaking. I felt so bad for Shiva because he was all alone now. He didn't have anybody. He loved her so much, and I felt bad for him. And even though I was not more into their romantic relationship, I still somehow felt bad. I felt his pain, and I didn't want to see him hurt, and all that rage and everything, and everything that happened after it, everything was justified. The conclusion, the decision of him destroying Devagiri and Somras and Meluhan people with it, I actually understood that. I understood his rage. Even though it was wrong, still I can understand why he feels that way. Sati died. She was one of the purest soul, and she died. And he was feeling that much pain. He was angry. He was angry with the world. He was angry with Meluhan people. So his outbreak was well justified. Even though I felt bad that Anandamai and Parvateshwar died as collateral damage, still I think their ending was good because they died together. They died happy. They were content with their life. So I didn't mind that. Like I said, the conclusion is the only part that I liked, and it is the only part that makes this book a little bit worthwhile. Now the parts that I didn't like. I didn't like anything except the conclusion, like I said. There was nothing much to it. I mean, there were battle strategies and philosophies that I didn't enjoy. There was so much talk about evil that it became repetitive. I mean, if they have excluded that part, I think almost 100 pages will be out of the book. The kingdom of the Vasudevas has been described so much that I had to skip through the pages because I do not need that much detail. I mean, I think I'm going to watch it in a movie when I do. I'm pretty sure this book is going to be turned into a movie, and I'm going to watch that movie. I'm going to buy tickets for that. I do want to see this book become a movie. I do want to see this world. I do want to see the beauty of it. But I didn't want to read about it so much. There was just so much. It was so long. Most of the time I felt asleep. I was so bored. It took me so long to complete this book because I was not interested in it. The title of the book is The Oath of the Vayuputras, but they were barely there. I mean, there were one or two scenes which I did enjoy. I really liked their backstory, but they were not explored well in this book. Even after realizing that Hanuman is also one of the Vayuputras, I really wanted to read about that. Even Shiva's uncle was not discussed well in this book. So I think the title was not justifiable, and apart from the ending, like I said, there was nothing much to it. The characters were same. The characters did what they are supposed to do. I think Ganesh was barely there. I mean, he was given so much importance in The Secret of Nagas, but in this book he was barely there. It was more about Karthik and his killing spree. Even the battle scenes were not that enjoyable. So overall, I did not enjoy this book as much as I wanted, because it was very disappointing to me, especially after reading Secret of Nagas. I'm gonna give it 3 out of 5 stars, and that 3 is for the conclusion only. If I had to judge on the first 80%, I would not give it even 1% because it was not worth it. But the other 20% was worth it, so I'm giving it 3 out of 5 star. It was my least favorite of all this book. I was just not happy with this book. Now let me summarize my whole experience with this series. For me, I think it is a must read. I really enjoyed this book, even though the first book had some disappointing bits and second book was great and third book was very disappointing. I would still recommend it to a friend. I will recommend to whoever reads it because this world is worth knowing. This beautiful place created by Amish, I think it's something that everyone should read at least once in a while. This mix between science and mythology, I think it was brilliant. And especially if you're an Indian, I think you should read it. And if you've never read a book before, I think you should start with this one. This will actually make you fall in love with reading, because India does not have a reading culture that is very frequent. So I want everyone to reading, and this book does have the capability of do so. So overall, I'm giving this series 4 out of 5 stars because it did start with a bang and did end with a bang. So I think this book deserves 4 out of 5 stars. So that is the end of my first series under the popular tag, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I loved the experience. I loved making video about it, and I loved reading series like that, and I am actually looking forward much to it because I did start with a very good series. I wish to pick up more amazing series like this and make videos on it and share it with you guys. Until then, if you do have any recommendation for me or you think any series is amazing and worthwhile, do let me know in the comments down below. Until then, do not forget to like, comment and subscribe, and keep reading.